I still remember the day I found her in my living room, like it happened yesterday. It was a rainy Thursday. I got home late from work, exhausted, only to open the door and see a woman I had never met before, soaking wet, shivering, and asleep on my couch. At first, I thought it was robbery. My hands trembled as I reached for the metal baseball bat behind the door, but something in her face stopped me. She looked broken. Her hair was a mess, clothes torn in some places, and her feet were bare. She looked like she had seen hell. "Who are you?" I asked, voice firm but cautious. She woke up with a start, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, I'm sorry. I had nowhere else to go." I stood frozen for a few seconds. Then I saw the small cut on her forehead and the bruises on her arm. Whoever she was, she had been through something. My instinct shifted from defense to concern. "How did you get in here?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She pointed to the back door. It was open. I didn't mean to trespass. I just needed to rest. "Please don't call the police." I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe it was the look in her eyes. Haunted, lost. Something told me she was running from something more dangerous than the law. I gave her a towel, a bowl of hot soup, and let her stay the night in the guest room. The next morning, she was gone. No note, no goodbye. I told myself it was a one-time event. Life would return to normal. But I was wrong. 1 week later, I saw her again, this time sleeping by the gate of my office. Her clothes were even dirty, her face tinier. My heart sank. What was this woman's story? "Adora," she whispered when I asked her name. That was the beginning. I offered her food again, then a safe place to stay for a few days. She resisted, but finally agreed. Over the weeks that followed, I got to know her piece by piece. Her story unfolded like a slow-burning novel. Adora had been married off at 19 to an abusive man. She ran away when he tried to kill her during one of his drunken episodes. For 2 years, she had been on the sun, staying in shelters, sometimes sleeping under bridges. She had no family left. Her parents disowned her for leaving her husband. No job, no ID, no peace. She was invisible to the world, but not to me. Vanessa, my girlfriend, noticed the change in me. I became distant. She grew suspicious, jealous, and eventually gave me an ultimatum. It's either her or me. I chose neither. Vanessa left. Furious, Adora stayed quiet. But something strange began to happen. The more I got to know Adora, the more I saw myself in her. Broken in different ways, yet still breathing, still fighting. I told myself I was just helping, nothing more. But by the third month, I knew I was lying to myself. I was falling for her. Even though she wasn't mine, even though I knew marrying her would cost me everything, my reputation, my comfort, maybe even my family, still I couldn't look away. And that's when everything changed. Because one night, Adora sat me down and said the words I will never forget. "Jide, I'm pregnant and is not yours. Jide, I'm pregnant and is not yours." The room went cold. My ears rang with silence. I didn't say a word for several seconds. Seconds that left like hours. My eyes were fixed on her face. She wasn't crying, she wasn't begging. She just sat there, hands on her knees, waiting for me to speak. "Whose is it?" I finally asked. She swallowed. "His." I didn't need her to say more. His. The monster from her past, the man she escaped, the man who broke her spirit. She continued, voice barely above a whisper. It was just before I ran away. I didn't know I was pregnant until I started throwing up weeks ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel obligated to help me anymore. I stood up, pacing, thinking, heart racing. So many questions crashed in my head. What would people say? What would my parents say? What would I even tell myself? But even as the word tilted, I knew the answer to the question she didn't ask. I wasn't letting her go. Not because I pitied her, not because I was trying to be a hero, but because I loved her. It didn't make sense. I wasn't logical, but it was real. I sat back down beside her, took her hand in mine, looked her in the eyes and said, "We will get through this together." Tears flowed down her face, and for the first time she leaned into me, not as a broken woman, but as someone begging to believe she was worthy of love. Over the next few months, she lived a quiet bubble. I protected her from the world, took her for antenatal care, helped her build a new life. Slowly, she started smiling again, reading, sketching, living. She even got a small job at a local bookstore under a new name. We kept everything low, quiet. But Lagos is small and secrets don't stay buried forever. One afternoon, I returned home and found it in front of the door wide open. My heart stopped. I ran in, screaming her name. She wasn't there. Then I saw the envelope on the table. Inside was a single photograph. Adora with her abusive husband at a village court registry. On the back it said, "She's still my wife and I'm coming for her." We had no choice. We ran. I took time off work, moved us to a friend's quiet property in Abeokuta. Adora cried almost every night. She felt like a burden, like a curse. But I kept reminding her, "You are not your past. You are not what happened to you." Then it happened. One early morning, while the harmattan breeze still hung in the air, she went into labor. It was intense, painful, long. There was no hospital nearby, no time to drive. I delivered the baby with trembling hands. A baby girl, a miracle, wrapped in screams and blood. When I placed the child in Adora's arms, she looked at me with a kind of love I've never seen before. I named her Zikora. She whispered, tears streaming. "It means show the world, because I want to show the world that love still exists, even after everything." That night, I made a decision. The next morning, I proposed. No ring, no grand speech. Just me on one knee, holding the hand of a woman the world gave up on, but who somehow gave me everything. She wasn't my wife, but I married her anyway. And just when I thought the storm had passed, he found us. The day he found us began like any other day. The sun was just rising over the quiet town of Abeokuta. Zikora was 6 weeks old, tiny, beautiful, and full of life. Adora was healing, slowly regaining her strength and smile. For the first time in a long time, there was peace. Then a knock came at the door. I opened it, thinking it was the local nurse who usually check in on us. But it wasn't her. It was him. Tall, broad-shouldered, eyes full of rage and darkness. He didn't speak, just stepped into the room like he owned the air we breathe. Adora screamed the moment she saw him. She grabbed Zikora and ran into the bedroom. He pointed at me. "You stole my wife." I stood firm. "You lost her the day you raised your hand against her." He took a step closer. "You think this is love? She is mine. She will always be mine." I clenched my fist. "She's not property. She's not yours. She's herself. And if you ever come near her again. Before I could finish, he swung. His fist landed on my jaw and I stumbled backward. He came at me again, fist flying, eyes mad. But something happened in that moment. I wasn't afraid. I fought back, not just for me, for Adora, for Zikora, for every woman who had ever been silenced by a man who thought fear was love. The fight didn't last long. I landed a punch that sent him crashing into the wall. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small knife. That's when Adora came out, holding Zikora with one hand and a small wooden pistol with the other. Her voice was steady, calm, deadly. If you take one more step, I will end this. I'm not that girl you used to beat. I'm a mother now, a wife, and I will not watch you hurt us again. He froze. For a moment, it was like time itself stopped. He looked at her at the fire in her eyes and realized he had already lost. He turned and ran. We called the police. They caught him on the outskirts of the town later that day. Turns out Adora wasn't the only woman he would hurt. There were reports, records, even warrants. He was charged with assault, kidnapping and domestic violence, and this time he wouldn't walk free. The news spread, of course. The gossip traveled fast. People said I was crazy, marrying a pregnant woman on the run, giving up my former life for a woman who brought trouble. Even my parents stopped speaking to me for a while, but something beautiful happened in the silence. We built a real life. We registered our marriage legally. Adora got counseling, support, and eventually started her own NGO for abused women. She named it Zikora's Light. I went back to work and opened my own firm, Zikora's Design, dedicated to building safe homes for single mothers. We didn't live a perfect life. There were hard days, nights when Adora would still wake up from nightmares, mornings when I stare in the mirror and wonder if I made the right choice. But every time Zikora called me daddy, every time Adora kissed me goodnight and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me," I knew I didn't marry her because she was perfect. I married her because she was worth it. Because sometimes love doesn't come the way we expect. It doesn't arrive in clean packages with pretty bows. Sometimes love crawls in, wounded, scared, lost, and we have the chance to be its home. Years passed. Zikora is now 10, bright, fierce, a defender of the weak, just like her mother. Adora, she's become a voice for the voiceless. She's written books, spoken on global stages, even got nominated for an award for her humanitarian work. And me, I still wake up beside the woman I wasn't supposed to love but did anyway. She wasn't my wife, but I married her anyway, and it was the best decision I ever made. If you love more stories like this, please subscribe. Thank you. Like and comment. Thank you.